Hi you guys, welcome back to Love Multiplies. We are here as a nonprofit to encourage you and support you along your journey in growing your family. And Philip and I have a lot to pour into you guys, and we know a lot about a lot of different things, but one thing that we haven't had any personal experience with is foster care. So we are very excited to have Deena here with us. She has grown her family in a couple of different ways, but one of them being foster care. And so I thought she was the perfect person to encourage you guys and enlighten you guys on maybe a couple of myths on foster care.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
We've grown our family in many different ways, as Alex said. So I have one biological daughter who is 11. We have one son, Sam, that's 8, and through private adoption. And we have Noah that was foster adopt. And now we are fostering currently a teenager.
Yes, so you've done everything pretty much.
We have done everything.
Yes, we call her the magical unicorn apparently, is what I've heard. She does it all.
I feel like my life goal is now.
Yes.
I'm a unicorn, I'm good.
Yes, you've accomplished it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to foster care, I feel like there are a lot of myths that are thrown around, and what would you say would be your top 3 myths that you have heard and maybe debunking some of them?
So I think one of the myths would be that I could never love a child and then have to say goodbye if that child left our house.
Right.
Which is hard, obviously. Yeah. When you say we've had 10 kiddos through our house, and every time you've had to say goodbye, yes, it breaks my mama heart, and they take a piece of my heart with them. Mm-hmm. But I think at the same time, that child needs all that love. Yeah. So you can't hold that back, because whether that's a weekend, whether that's 2 months, whether that's a lifetime, that child needs all that love to pour into them. So if you look at it that way, that, hey, you know what, I'm gonna love the best I know how for 3 months, mm-hmm. and if that child's only with me for 3 months, they are gonna know what true love is, and that I'm gonna love them through their mistakes, I'm gonna love them through the hard, no matter what, and giving them permission to be human and make mistakes. Because I think they're so terrified to mess up that then that love is dependent on that, because that's what they've known.
Mm-hmm. And that's true, you get to impact them during that time.
Right.
And even if it's hard for you, it's the best thing for them.
Right. And I kind of go back to, is fostering hard? It is so hard. I mean, there's social workers in our house every other week. There's court, there's me texting attorneys, there's paperwork, all that kind of stuff. But when at the end of the day, it really comes down to no child deserves not to have a bed at night and someone to tuck them in and that kind of stuff. So I take that selfish part of me like, oh my gosh, this is so hard.
Yes.
And think of that child in the lifetime that hopefully this will change their life in the meantime, of even if it is a couple months.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then myth number 2, what would be another one?
I'd say the other one probably would be that kids are resilient, and I hear that a lot, and I think people say like, oh, well, they're little, they won't remember. And I think getting into it, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh yeah, kids are resilient, like they're not gonna remember, and yet trauma is trauma, and whether that baby was in utero and that trauma happened, and it might not even be drug use, but sometimes it's domestic violence during pregnancy and things like that. But those kiddos remember, and their brain actually, I mean, research shows that it's rewired, like they don't think in the same way. And when you have a kiddo in your house and something triggers them and you're like, I don't know what just happened, like why was that a trigger? And a lot of times they don't know what the trigger is.
Right.
And so walking them through that and trying to figure out, getting them in counseling and stuff like that, because yes, they are resilient, but you still have to deal with the trauma.
Yeah, it's a lifetime experiences of things that we couldn't even comprehend or wrap our minds around, of some things that they have experienced. So they almost have they have to mature almost to an adult level, but they are a complete child at the same time. So trying to balance that and trying to learn your personality and trying to figure out behavior and all of that is something we maybe never had to experience. So how are we going to love on them through all that?
And even discipline, because discipline's going to look different. Like I can't discipline a child that's been through trauma and abuse the same way I discipline kids that don't have that trauma and abuse, and that's really hard.
And you can do that in one household where you have a biological child, adoption privately, and foster care, and you might be disciplining your children differently.
Right, and my kids will say that, well, they didn't get in trouble for that, or you did you know, they didn't get a timeout for that, and trying to tell them, like, you've all had different life experiences, and I'm gonna parent you different because of what has gone on in your life.
Yes.
And I'd say the third myth probably is bringing the fear of bringing a child that's been through trauma and hard times in difficult places into a home, and that they're going to be violent, or they're going to hurt the other kids in the house and all that kind of stuff. And I said there is some validity to that, because yes, some kids are going to come in with violence because that's all they've ever known. But at the same time, knowing that parenting them and loving on them and getting them into the treatment they need, and whether that's good therapy or a trauma therapist and stuff like that, and also being okay and saying no if it's not the right situation for your family.
You think that you get into foster care and you are a foster parent, and then you just have to take any child that the social worker is going to place into your home, and that's not how it works.
Yeah. Definitely. So you can give preferences for ages and even ethnicities and medically fragile and all that kind of stuff. And if a situation is presented, it's okay to say no. Like, you know what, that's not going to work for our family right now.
Right.
And it might be, I don't have time to do 10 hours of visits a week with biological parents. That's just not going to fit, but I can do 2 hours. And so yes, this situation might work better and this one's not.
Right.
Or this one is known to be violent, so that kid should be placed in a home maybe without small kids in the home or other things like that.
Right.
And so giving your family permission and you as a couple permission, or however that looks, to say no, and it's okay. You know, but you feel like you're saying no to the child, and that's hard to do.
That is hard, but there are families that maybe don't have other children in the home and they are more equipped to take on a certain situation. Or maybe you have older kids and you are already exhausted, and maybe you don't want to bring in an infant into your home, and you don't want to wake up every 3 hours. And so it's being able to know that you have the right to say no as a foster parent as well, when you get placed, or when you get is that what it's called? A placement? Yes.
Placement. And it's better to say no up front before that child's placed with you than to have a
100%.
disrupted placement. So once that child's placed, and then all of a sudden 3 months in, we're like, this isn't working for anybody, and that child's pulled from you, there goes attachment. Like there goes for that child, that's more traumatic. So instead of being up front and being like, I know this probably is not going to work, it's okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Deena, for being here and answering some questions on foster care. And you guys might be coming here interested in foster care, and maybe you had some myths, or maybe your family or friends had some myths that you were just not quite sure about, and maybe Deena was able to answer some of those, but maybe you guys still have some more questions. If you want to leave those in the comments below, and we can go ahead and put another video together to answer some of those, and hopefully put together a bunch of resources that you can find on our website, and that will be in the description below, lovemultiplies.org. And we'll see you guys in our next video. Go let your love multiply. Bye, guys.